Thousands of years ago, someone knelt in the dark and painted a bison on a cave wall, maybe to tell a story, maybe to mark a successful hunt. While they worked, their palm brushed the cold stone beside the image. Now, scientists discovered that a touch like that can survive for thousands of years, hidden inside solid rock, waiting quietly for someone to notice it. For decades, researchers believed ancient human DNA could only survive in bones, teeth, or buried soil. Cave walls seemed too exposed, too weathered, too alive with bacteria and rainwater to hold anything so fragile. A team working from the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology decided to test that assumption. They picked 11 caves across Spain and Portugal. Could a painted wall still carry the DNA of the person who painted it? To find out, they needed a comparison. Alongside the painted panels, they collected samples from bare rock nearby, spots with no color, no marking, nothing visible at all. These environmental control samples were supposed to come back empty. Isn't that the whole point of a control? They didn't come back empty. 4 of these nothing samples, 2 from Escurel Cave in Portugal and 2 from Covaron Cave in Spain, contained ancient human DNA anyway. The walls that were never supposed to hold a story turned out to be holding one the whole time. Here's where it gets stranger. Everyone expected the real discovery to come from Altamira, the cave famous for its red bison paintings, the one printed in every textbook on prehistoric art. But this most photographed cave art in the world had nothing left to say. Researchers also tested a prehistoric bird bone tool from Altamira, hoping it once carried the saliva of an artist blowing pigment through it like a straw. That tool also came back empty. Nonetheless, out of about 120 cave wall samples analyzed across the study, 5 produced authentic ancient human DNA, including the 4 from the environmental controls. That is not a high success rate. But the study's authors pointed out that the real significance reaches far beyond rock art. This is a completely new kind of evidence, sitting quietly on cave walls all over the world. So how do you prove a wall was actually touched by a person, rather than just coated in dust that happened to carry some DNA along with it? This is where the detective work gets serious. Cave sediment is usually crowded with animal DNA, left behind by bats, rodents, and centuries of small creatures moving through the dark. If human DNA on a wall arrived through dirt or water dragging it there, you would expect animal DNA, riding along with it too. 2 of the 5 positive samples had no animal DNA at all. That absence makes it likely that a real person left a trace directly through skin, sweat, or saliva, rather than through mud, tracked in over thousands of years. None of this was easy to collect without ruining it. The research team worked in double gloves and surgical masks, using sterile scalpels to shave off fragments smaller than a fingernail. Every sneeze, every stray skin cell from their own hands, threatened to bury thousands-year-old evidence under 21st century contamination. Can you imagine handling something that fragile, knowing one careless breath could ruin it? But in the worst-case scenario, researchers have a special trick to distinguish ancient human DNA from modern human DNA. Old DNA breaks down in a specific, predictable way over time, with certain chemical changes accumulating at the ends of the strands. Modern DNA doesn't show that pattern. And even with all that caution, one mystery remains unsolved. The DNA proves someone touched that wall. It does not prove who. It could belong to the artist who painted the mark at Escurel, resting a hand against the stone while grinding pigment. Or it could belong to someone who leaned against that same spot 5,000 years after the paint had already dried. Right now, there is no way to tell the difference. Finally, why would a bare wall hold on to human DNA for thousands of years in the first place? It comes down to a unique chemical partnership. DNA has a natural ability to bind tightly to mineral surfaces, clinging to the porous stone of the cave walls. In some cases, like at Escurel, a slow-growing crust of calcite can naturally overlay the pigment, trapping the trace beneath it like a time capsule. A similar sealing can happen today. You touch walls, railings, and door frames every day. Forensic scientists call this touch DNA, and research has shown that as few as 5 to 10 skin cells are enough for a genetic signature to survive on an object, just like how these ancient people have. You may be leaving a trace that could outlast you by centuries.